Night Ed. Welcome to the Part 2 video on Buddhism for the UMHS class on World Religions. Part 2 will cover the teachings and rituals of Buddhism. If you missed it, be sure to go back and watch the Part 1 video. That covers the origins of Buddhism. So, basic teachings, branches, and tidbits of Buddhism. First off, Buddhism is very diverse. It has many different schools of thought. For example, within a Christian denomination, you hear, well, I just use the word denomination. People hear of, Presbyterians, Methodists, Baptists. So those are different views on how to interpret different things, or different ways to show ritual for different things. Buddhism is no different. It has many different schools of thought. So some of the foundational beliefs. The Four Noble Truths of Life. That's a good way to name it because you already know how many you got. So, number 1, life is suffering. 2, cause of suffering is desire. 3, the transformation comes from getting rid of this desire, which gets rid of suffering. And the last one is to follow the middle path so you don't have to deal with that suffering. So let's look at life as suffering. Buddha concluded, in life, you're going to have more pain than happiness. It's kind of a sad thing to think. And then Buddha also felt like there was always something there to steal away his happiness. Change is a big part of that. In other words, nothing's really permanent on this planet. We're part of the temporal. And people can't cling to this single moment because each moment's fleeting. So life is suffering, and you die. And then you're reborn, and then you suffer, and you die. And, well, it keeps going, so it's just like a cycle for them. So what happens? You have a goal. What is that goal? To break free of this cycle. Desire is the root of suffering. Think about it. How can that be possible? Well, if a person wants something and they don't get it, well, that's suffering. Or you get it and it wasn't really what you thought. Or you get it and it breaks, it dies, it leaves. You get your hopes up, you get let down. Suffering. What's the next one? The path of transformation. How do you do that? You get rid of desire. So in other words, if something bad happens, people often try to swear off that event. For example, I failed a science class. I just won't take science classes anymore. Boom! I won't suffer anymore. Okay, that's not the best example, but think about it. If there's something out there that's going to make you suffer, get rid of it, and you won't suffer anymore. Makes sense, pretty logical. So, you need to follow the path to get rid of that desire. The Eightfold Path. More on that later. So, this path is going to help you get rid of suffering. And how do you get rid of suffering? Get rid of desire, right? So these are all connected. So the more on this later, well, it's later. In this section, we're going to learn about the Four Noble Truths again and the Noble Eightfold Path. By the way, if you're watching this and we're enumerating this pretty clearly, it probably means you're going to be responsible for it somewhere. So be sure to pay attention. So once again, the Four Noble Truths. There is suffering, and to live is to suffer. That's called the dukkha. And Buddha found this out, of course, when he went out to check the whole world out, like, ooh, what a wonderful world. And he did not walk away thinking that, because he saw old people suffering, he saw sick people, he saw dead people. All these different things. Number 2, the cause of suffering is from desire and these attachments in your life. Okay? Well, that's really sad. But it's called Tanha. Next, how do you get rid of suffering? Well, you get rid of desire and these attachments. You achieve Nirvana. Kind of interesting. Nirvana means extinction. That makes it sound a little more serious, right? Number 4, to reach this Nirvana, one needs to follow the Eightfold Path. See my cool diagram right there? Found it online. If you notice, there's 8 things on it. Probably going to tie into the Eightfold Path, right? So, number 1 and 2, you need to have the right view. In other words, you need understanding of the Four Noble Truths. Number 2, you need the right intentions. Do things for the right reason, okay? Number 1, this is the next 3, but if you notice, they're a little bit different colors. Check it out. We're going to scoot back. You need the right view and the right intention, okay? So that's kind of your outlook on life. Now, this is looking more like things you're doing, right? It's the right speech. In other words, no lying, gossip, just idle chat. The right conduct, what you do. Are you being useful? Are you being helpful? The right livelihood. Is what you're doing for an occupation actually good and helpful? Okay. And then the next thing, the right effort or mindfulness and the right concentration. In other words, you need to work hard to keeping the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. You also need to be aware. You need to see things the right way. Understand how what you do affects everyone else and all of that around you. You don't just live in a bubble or a vacuum, right? And you need the right concentration, which brings about the importance within Buddhism for meditation. How are you going to do all this if you don't think about it? Think about it. So, there you go. That's the Eightfold Path and the Four Noble Truths. And I hope you've learned a little bit about what Buddhism holds as its basic beliefs, and you'll have an opportunity to explore different schools of thought in a later assignment. Thank you for watching.